Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for the wait during our lunch break. We are back with our best of seven finals between David Eldar and Harshan Lamabadusuriya of England. We are so excited to bring you more Scrabble. Harshan currently leading the set 2-1, and I am joined in the commentary booth once again by former North American champion Will Anderson and former world champion Wellington Jighere. Excited to have both of y'all on board for more Scrabble. We are just about underway. David will play first in game 4. Harshan looking to break set. The player who has played first has won each of the first 3 games. Harshan would love to buck that trend here. And David drawing in our WT, O, G, and a V. So that V mucked things up quite a bit. Vrow, vow, or wrong look to be options here. Maybe VOG as well. Wellington, what of those options would you be looking to do here?
Well, I think I'll go with wrong. Wrong takes away more tiles and takes away the troublesome G. I kind of have a very huge aversion for a G, especially in the case of, especially the G has proven to be a very, very troublesome tile over time. If you notice, if you have it on rack and you're not playing a bingo, most of the times it hardly gets incorporated into the optimal play most of the times, and you just get stuck with it until you're able to get a bingo or you make a conscious attempt to dispose of it. So to avoid such a situation in an early game, I usually prefer to get rid of it as soon as possible.
Yeah, the G always a controversial tile in Scrabble. Some like it, some don't, but I found my rating started to go up when I tried to shed G's as much as possible. David electing to keep his here with the play of Rao and Harshan picking up an X on the opening turn, Chiorxy. He's got defensive options such as Oxy on either side of that W, or a small option of Vox from the V. Will, are you looking to play either of those? Maybe Oryx through the R in Vrow?
It's a good question. It's certainly tempting to just play Vox here just because your leftover letters are kind of harmonious with that CH combination. The Y, pretty good for scoring. I think once you play Vox, it feels very likely, if David doesn't have a bingo, that he's going to play on top of that X, which would in turn potentially let you re-parallel that play for a pretty good score if you draw 2 decent tiles that synergize well there. The worry that I have about Oxy is just, again, that it kind of opens an easy access to the triple word score that isn't really necessary here. But at the same time, you do get a big benefit of shedding yourself of that Y as well. That is going to increase your chance of drawing a 7 or 8 letter bingo. So, man, I don't know. It's tough. If you're Harshan, you do at least have to think about David's opening play of Vrow, which again, you see 3 consonants and only 1 vowel. Maybe you can get away with a play like Oxy here, and he'll have too many consonants, particularly Oxy, I guess, on the left side of Vrow. Maybe you get away with it without getting hit too hard on the triple.
Yeah, this is a tough turn. Many similar options here. We may see Harshan opt to play a little bit longer. Ochry, an option. Hox also plays for a good amount of points here. A very tough turn. We may also see Chivy through the V in Vrow. There are so many options that all look to be rather close to one another. Oryx going to be the one we see here from Harshan, and this has been consistent with the good defensive Scrabble he's been playing all tournament. Try to limit options he can be hit back with. And now David to respond up by 1 point. EGNOPRT. No bingos available for him here, and he'll have to decide how many tiles to play off here. I'm thinking OX and OPT may be the play. Wellington, do you have other thoughts about this rack?
Well, I think OPT seems to be a solid move, given the options at his disposal. And well, the good thing about this Oryx move by Harshan is that it was actually it was quite a defensive one, especially since it doesn't give the opponent much to play if he doesn't have an S for an easy hook on Vrows. And so, given that, I might just go with Gox. I think Gox is also a viable option for him, leaving Prince. I think Gox leaving Prince is seems like still comes back to eliminating that G. The G is a tile that one should actually think of shedding off as soon as possible.
Yeah, that G, trouble for him. He'd be close to bingos without it on this rack yet again. Will, do you concur? Gox maybe, or a shorter play like that?
Cox seems reasonable. Opt also seems reasonable, but I just want to point out that Harshan has a bit of a word knowledge check here. If Harshan has studied deep enough into the dictionary, we are going to see a gargantuan bingo coming down immediately right here to the O of Vrow. This is a big swing. This will tell us a lot about how deep into the dictionary has Harshan studied. We know it's deep to be at the level that he's playing at. But if he sees Borraccio to the O of Vrow, that will be 100 points here. Amazing if he spots it.
My goodness, Borraccio for 100. Incredible. We will find out. Oh, wow. Wow.
The longer, the more seconds go by that he has not played this, the less likely I feel that he will find it. This is the sort of thing where if he knows this word and looks at that O, it will jump out quickly. And if not, we may see a critical miss here. Although he does have still some good overlapping plays on top of Ox, but not 100-point plays.
Yeah, Choir plays very nicely on top, making HOX, OP, and IT for 43. BOI keeps the nice CH combo together for 32 points as well. But Borraccio, clearly the best play for Harshan, and it is not even close. Big word knowledge check for him, big anagramming check as well.
Oh, man.
He's getting close.
Is he getting? Yeah, Wellington and I are watching him shuffle the tiles. We saw that B make its way to the early part, the left side of his rack, and maybe he was going to spot it, but it looks like not. Do you think you would have spotted that, Wellington?
I think only Nigel is the person who can be rest assured could spot this. Though there are some other very bingo prolific players back in Nigeria who could who you could bet could possibly spot this. A player like Olatunde Oduwole, for example, would possibly spot this, but I doubt if I would be able to spot it because it was a very hidden move.
Low probability word in a tricky spot for sure, Matt.
Yeah.
And now David finding the 9-letter bingo loitering, his highest scoring option. He had 2 other ones through the W, lowering and rowling. That does end dangerously 1 space short of a double word. Surely if either player puts an S on it, it'll yield a 5-point challenge. Will, word knowledge check. Does it take an S?
I would have no way of knowing that. This is definitely a weak point for me, knowing which of the words ending in ing can take that S hook at the end of the word to pluralize it. I would be terrified to put an S on, and I'm pretty sure I would not be able to pull the trigger on it. But I've already spoiled the answer for myself, Matt, which is that it does actually take an S hook. So if one of these two players is somehow confident enough to try putting an S on there, that is a potentially hugely lucrative spot, as Harshan has drawn another 7-letter word on his rack. Well, not another. He hasn't played any yet, but I'm not sure he has a spot for his Bainite yet.
No spot for Bainite on this turn. He won't be bingoing on the play. The S hook to loitering for the North Americans who don't play CSW, it is a CSW only hook. So don't try that one unless you're playing Collins.
Wow, amazing. I mean, that's a level of preparation that I could only dream of, Wellington, to know that loitering takes an S or not. What do you think about that?
Well, I used to know some of these words, especially those ending in ing and s, but I think the thorough work I did ended with 8 letters. So when it comes to 9 letters that take an S, I think it would most likely be a guessing game for me, and it depends on how much risk I'm willing to take as at when I have the option available, and I could possibly risk it because it sounds English, but then it depends on how the game is, the stage of the game, and how much risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a matter of how much better is the play in that spot than something else, somewhat of an odds game. If you have a 60-pointer there with 25 points as your next best play, likely going to pull the trigger. But if you've got other options, perhaps we'll see players be conservative here. Though one has to wonder if David played that word knowing whether or not it takes an S, or if he's got that decision as well. Maybe he just wanted the points. I expect to see either player challenge it for just 5 points, though, in this situation. David now leads 110 to 83 as Harshan plays Brain out of his previous rack. And David with an interesting rack here, ABFFKUU, BAULK playing through the L in loitering is 28 points, holding both of those Fs. Bluff through that same L, 26 points, holding AKU. Wellington, do you have a preference between those or perhaps looking elsewhere on this board?
Uh, I think if I'm to choose between bulk and bluff, I'll probably go with bluff, because the double FU doesn't seem like much fun. Whereas the AUK seems like a better rack lead. But I'll probably still take some time to look further to explore further options if it was me.
I would add that I agree with Wellington's instinct of bluff over balk, simply because if you imagine bluff where it would go on the board, it would place the F in the triple lane, which isn't all that easy for Harshan to use productively for a ton of points, but it would retain AKU on David's rack, which with an I draw, you would have Kufi to the triple for a solid score. You even just have KAF there to come back for 30 points on the next turn. So I actually think, oddly, the AKU leave after bluff combines kind of nicely with that F in the triple lane. So it could be something where Harshan doesn't have a great play there, and David will get another good score on his next turn.
A tough turn here as David looks, he's got bulk set up on his rack. He'll have to decide if he wants to pull the trigger. It does set up a spot to play the F above, but not going to be a strong option there. Got to think about what you're going to pull next turn. The F, I believe, the only tile in Scrabble that increases in valuation with two of them over one. It has positive synergy with itself, but with that U as well, that doesn't seem very promising. David's going to stretch as we see him do when he's got a tough decision on his hand. The big exhale, smirks a little bit. He knows this is a challenging turn.
Yeah, I definitely am noticing a lot of good breathing from David. He's doing those stretches when he has a tough situation. I feel like actually that is an underrated part of competing, is just making sure that you're breathing and relaxed and able to think clearly. Sometimes I feel like it's easy to lose track of that, and it somehow manifests itself as more mistakes in my game when I'm not thinking about just stretching, breathing, all that stuff that you have to do as a physical person. So good to see him doing that.
I was wondering this last night, thinking about it, but many of the top players also seem to be in good physical shape. Nigel Richards famously biking to many of the national championships from hotels far away. Many other top players have their own exercise regimens. Wellington, do you do any sort of physical exercise to keep yourself in prime shape for mental activity?
I am what you can describe as a quasi-lazy kind of person when it comes to exercise routine. I call it quasi-lazy because sometimes I can feel I can feel the urgent need to exercise more, especially when I'm beginning to feel that my body needs to be freer amongst my joints. But usually I go back to my lazy state when I have attained some level of fitness, and then I only get back on the workout routine when I begin to notice that things are getting a little bit troublesome on the fitness front. But other than that, I especially in preparation for tournaments, big tournaments of this nature, it is good to actually be physically fit, especially when you know that there are going to be lots of games played over a long period of time. But other than that, but one major thing to note is to not overexercise if it is not something you are used to, because if you overdo it very close to a major event, it becomes a problem rather than a blessing.
Yeah, and definitely not just physical activity, but mental activity. We've seen so much fatigue from players who felt, perhaps I could play these two back-to-back events, and yet so many players seem to be struggling through as they slug through 60, 65 games of Scrabble. It's not all quite there. Mayfic, clearly the play for Harshan after David likes to play bluff over bulk. He can't be happy about getting hit back for 39, but he should be happy about finding that first blank, and even happier about the M floating at the top right corner of the board, as that's going to
Wow.
allow him to bingo. The only playable bingo on this turn for David plays to that M, and it is lukewarm for 89 points.
Now that would be a great find, of course, the only playable bingo, Matt, as you say. But I also feel like, I know that these players are totally locked in. They're playing the finals of the WESPA championship. But if I were not totally locked in, I might not think that hard with this rack trying to play to an M at the end of the word in terminal position. I think if you think of that possibility, you might see lukewarm quickly, but I could easily imagine not even thinking of looking there for a bingo. And if David doesn't stay patient and look at every last spot on the board, this is a potential one that I could see being missed. But again, we're talking about David Eldar here. It would be a shock to see him miss anything at this point.
We've already seen Harshan miss a sneaky hidden bingo in Borraccio early in this game. Will David return the favor and miss lukewarm to the M?
Oh, imagine if he misses it, but inadvertently blocks equating double-double.
He's
Because
found it.
Harshan, okay, so David is going to play this beautiful play, and that is an amazing play by him. But look at Harshan's response that's about to come down here. It's going to be fireworks.
He is going to double his score from 122 to 244 with this play. Lukewarm surges David to 225, but Harshan to pull back ahead. Both players with great draws after a few sloggy turns here, and equating likely to come down very soon for Harshan.
I'm just amazed it's not down already. What is there to think about here? Okay, here it comes.
Yeah, it even took a little more time. It shouldn't take more than a few seconds to drop this.
Yep.
I usually like dropping something like this while my opponent is still picking replenishment tiles from his last move.
Yeah, you like to throw this one down very quickly. David has drawn the Z, a pivotal tile, as well as the second blank after his first bingo. He'll need to decide if he wants to cash it in. A Zito playing down from the A is 72, burning the blank, holding WGV. Otherwise, he's looking to play perhaps Zig through the I and equating for 33. Wellington, 72 and burn the blank, or keep things tight here?
Well, at this stage of the game, burning the blank leaves you with D. GWV.
I think it's GVW.
That GVW seems like a troublesome leave. I would probably favor playing Zig, especially since it keeps I get to keep the blank and get to keep VWD blank, and the board is the E of equating could come in very handy when it comes to your next possible place. So if I'm to choose between Azido and Zig, I would most likely choose Zig.
Will, your thoughts on the situation?
I certainly echo everything Wellington said. And of course, it's with anything in Scrabble, it's just a question of how many points is enough to get you to do something you really don't want to do. Yeah, playing Zig and leaving that blank is so tempting. But man, it's tough to turn down 72 points. I wonder if, we've seen a couple times now, and we see it from the games of great players like Wellington and like Nigel Richards, that being patient with a tile like the Z and hoping for, a better opportunity for it. And in the case of Azito, you're getting 72 points, but maybe by keeping it, you can draw a play that doesn't require you to use the blank to score really well. Maybe that's something that will work out well. So maybe even just something like VOW to the E of equating and just trying to draw, some bigger play there. But I would find it difficult to turn Azito down.
I am running a 4-ply simulation on Quackle of the position right now, and it has the plays nearly identical. So when that seems to happen more, it's a matter of philosophy and how you choose to approach the rest of the game. This is a very challenging decision for David.
And sometimes you would make a decision like that. You would try to use your opponent's previous play as a clue to help guide you, right? So in this particular case, what was Harshan's previous play? Equating for a massive score. So his rack is completely random. You can't tell anything about what's on there other than it's just 7 random tiles. So maybe that in and of itself is a little bit of a clue. Where that clue leads you, I'm not really sure, Wellington.
Is another philosophy that comes into play here is the score differences. Yeah, I think I choose to believe that when your opponent is when you're going neck and neck with your opponent, sometimes if you have the option of banking a few points just to give the feeling that you aren't pulling away just yet, because if you pull away too fast, and sometimes your opponent could switch into a different gear, and if you don't have the malleable tiles to counteract that, it can become a problem a little bit later in the game. So I think that would probably factor into why I would choose the Zig. Choose the Zig, keep your blank. Your opponent has the feeling that you are going neck and neck with him. He's not, he hasn't switched to desperation mode yet, and everybody goes home happy. And all of a sudden, you switch gears, and he's not able to catch up quick enough.
Yeah, I've thought about that frequently. I don't want to pull away too quickly. My opponent can then shape the board the way they want to shape it. Interesting to think that former world champions think the same way, as David is holding on to that blank. I think he also likes that he has potential to draw plays like Adview, ADVEW, down from that A next turn. And he's found an S as well, which is going to be big after the spot he's set up. Harshan, out of 3 E's, plays Anil here. That looks rather standard to me. You don't want to get caught up fishing your E's on a tight board like this. So Harshan going to open things up here. And David now DSOVWY blank on his turn after the big Zig decision he had to make.
And down comes Wadi very quickly. Seems a really, really nice way, with David having so many consonants compared to just the one real vowel in the O, to score very, very well. Leave himself that one vowel with a bunch of E's to play through. 2 E's of Anil and 1 E of equating. That should be a good omen for him as he tries to get a bingo down.
And he's pulled rather well. IIOSTV blank the rack for him. I believe that's going to give some bingo opportunities, including the high scoring bingos to the E of positive and the high scoring bingo from the N of novities. So Eldar likely going to pull even further ahead should one of those bingos come down next turn, and it would be nearly impossible for both of them to be blocked at the same time. Harshan now, Aadeitis. He can't know that he's about to get hit. That's what Wellington was saying. The play of Zig, keep things tight. Wadi, keep things tight. And then bam, he's going to throw down this blank bingo and pull ahead by over 100 next turn. If Harshan had that knowledge, he'd perhaps play differently here. But what do you think we're going to see him do? Plunking in A, Zany is 18 points with a good leave, but there aren't too many bingo lines. Bingoing with this leave on the top of the board, rather tough. Wellington, would you be looking to play just the A and a fish here, or maybe a little bit longer?
I would. Usually, I don't like fishing that much. Depends, but if I was in his shoes and I was sure of loiterings, then I'll probably make a solid play around there. Maybe Nagas or Sed. But with the partial knowledge of loiterings, I would probably, but I hate to drop just a because while the remaining six tiles are a good stem, it could actually perform relatively poorly with the floats on board, and the floats on board are basically ease, and I don't think it does well with it. So I think Annie would be a better play, which is what he has just done.
So Ani going to be the move for 22, largely addressing that spot to play the S behind loitering. So not going to be a big concern, though maybe if we end up with a tight game, still opportunities for it to be dropped. David, with the second blank here, positive or novities likely to come down here. He may consider playing a tighter bingo, one that is a little bit more defensive. He could consider vitriols through the L instead, but I think positive scores so well, he's got to make this. Will, we saw you bypass several points multiple times in this tournament to play more defensive bingos when pulling ahead. Would you play positive here, or would you try to keep things tighter?
So I think between positive and novities, I think I am favoring novities just because with positive, you do place that S out in space that makes it easy to end an 8-letter word in an S. Whereas with novities, if you can imagine where that would go, if you're watching down from the N of brain, the S in that spot in the lower right-hand corner isn't nearly as big of a threat because the second E of anneal is there blocking 8-letter words from playing into it. So I think I would probably have played novities here over positive for that reason, but that is really splitting hairs. Wellington, do you have any feeling about those choices?
I think both choices are very close choices, and I usually have an aversion for leaving a central floats when the game is in my favor. So for that singular reason, I might be choosing positive because it takes away the central L and the central E. The good thing with the central floaters is that whenever your opponent has a playable word to them, there's hardly a case of the float is not properly placed because it can swivel in either direction that your word forms. But the thing with the S floats that we're talking about now is that the opponent has to end with it. And I thought it doesn't, although in the case of an S is a viable threat, but in some other floaters, it might not be as viable a threat as it is. But given my predisposition normally, I think I will probably go for positive.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Sorry, Matt, go ahead. Just wanted to say that I'm learning a lot from Wellington's answers to these questions. It makes a lot of sense how he phrased it there.
Yeah, the central floaters that you can build around in any direction. They can be the first through 8th letter in your word, and they'll hit. David has an incredible draw. He's pulled Supremo, which will play atop the board, or Spermis, which will play down to the S. And with that draw, given Harshan also missed a bingo on this turn, Harshan, I believe, will fail to break serve, and David will take game 4 in this game, or in this set.
Yeah, just to clarify your words choice, when you say he missed a bingo, it means he just didn't draw one, as opposed to was not able to find one on his rack. Matt, I totally understood your meaning. Just wanted to clarify, but yeah, I mean, it's tough with these low point tiles that are screaming that there should be a bingo when you don't have one. Sometimes points are difficult to come by. So it looks like he is trying to counteract that by playing tased with all of these overlaps on top of positive, just to somehow stay in range. Maybe he can draw a bingo in a different spot of the board. But as you say, Matt, David is going to play Supremo pretty fast here.
He's also got an incredible 9 after tased, which is super cool. It also starts with super. Instead of Supremo, he could play Supermoto to the TO, which is awesome.
Not a word I know, Wellington.
Yeah,
that is a word you know now. But Supremo, a higher scoring option, 78 points, and this one likely out of hand now. Both games Harshan has dropped so far, David has bingoed at least 4 times, and he may even pull another one. We'll reveal the unseen pool, likely not going to matter. Harshan in big trouble here, as he just can't survive the bingo onslaught and the double blanking from Eldar. Has he pulled ADERT too? That's incredible.
The good news for Harshan is that these losses where David has bingoed so many times, that's just one game in the standings. You don't have to worry too much. In a finals format like this, whether you lose by 1 or whether you lose by 200 is very, very unlikely to matter. It's all about how many total games can you win. And the size of the blowout doesn't make too much difference. Of course, in the unlikely event of a tie between the players, it might start to matter. But unlike in chess, a tie in Scrabble is exceedingly rare.
We had to wait on those unseen tiles just a minute as we figured out Harshan's rack to get the unseen pool. He has once again failed to draw a bingo on this rack, though very close after that play of tased. And David has drawn his 5th bingo of the game. We'll play through the P in Supremo, EPATERED. So Harshan, whether or not he blocks that, is done in this game, but the bingo onslaught may continue depending on what Harshan chooses to do here. With 15 unseen tiles, that means there are 8 in the bag. Harshan likely realizes that he needs a bingo and a second bingo to win this game, or an extremely high scoring option this turn to try to catch back up. Do you think maybe we see a loiterings play here as he tries to keep scoring?
It still boils down to knowing the word in the first place earlier on. But I think if loiterings hadn't come along earlier on, I don't think it is coming onto this board because both players have had. I think Harshan has had more opportunity to utilize it, but I don't think loiterings is coming onto the board. Either way, it's a won and lost game, and we just if I was him, I would just save my energy and get through the motions and hope for a better game next game.
So this game, I'm sorry, Matt. I was just going to agree that this is definitely time to sort of throw up that white flag, not burn too much brain power, and get to game 5 where you can start fresh and hope that David doesn't bingo 5 times or whatever he has.
This game really comes down to finding crazy bingos to tiles you're not looking to bingo to. Harshan missing on Borraccio, and chat let us know that he has studied every 8-letter word, so it's not a matter of not knowing the word, just not thinking to look to that spot. And David did think to look and found his bingo to the M with lukewarm, so a big swing of events there, as David's 5th bingo has been blocked by Harshan, though it's not going to matter at the end of the day here.
So I'm sure David is crushed to not be able to play a pattered through that P, but he'll have to hide his disappointment and play something else.
I would have already walked out of the playing room. I'd be calling my mom, crying. Just kidding. So, but at this point, yeah, David can do nearly anything and win this game. 5 tiles in the bag. He's likely not going to empty it here, but just play TEED beneath Supremo or something and kind of finish this one out. I don't know that he needs to play aggressively and try to bingo a 5th time, but maybe he will to rack up spread when it may matter, but almost certainly won't.
Yeah, I mean, in Scrabble, we already are fighting incredibly hard for 1% edges here and there. So in this situation, if you're in the finals and there's an incredibly low chance that a tie might happen and spread will start to matter, of course, you're going to try to maximize it as David makes a beautiful overlapping play of tiered under Supremo. Wow, that's very nice.
39 points. High scoring as well, and David will empty the bag with this draw.
And no hope for what I believe to be Harshan's jostled on his rack that doesn't fit anywhere.
Dang, yeah. He's drawn it too, tried to stay in range, just couldn't survive the onslaught of bingos from David. He'll probably play Jest, making nuts and PET.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just Jest. Is there any? I don't think David will have. The only reason, if you're Harshan, to hold off on playing Jest is to just make absolutely sure that David doesn't have an easy play from that J to the triple that you wouldn't want to give him, and I don't believe he has such a play, Wellington.
Yeah, I think Jest is by far the best move. Oh, just so then, I found
R-E-L.
It's not playable.
This is a joke. This
Just
is a
joking
joke.
about it.
At this level, the players know their threes, and that was a joke.
And even if it wasn't a joke, it still wouldn't give him the game. So
True, actually. That's a good point. Yeah.
Jostled would be 122 in that spot. He'd still go on to lose by 15. Actually, the best in game is not JEST. It would be JOLD, J-O-L-E-D, beneath the E in equating, making ED. But the only reason that is the best in game is because those last 2 tiles, ST, would go out forming loiterings. So without the absence of, not knowing that's a word, best is the best in game here.
Great point. Yeah. So if you are a total master of the dictionary, you could play JOLD under equating and then go out with gist and loiterings. That would be a very slick end game sequence that very few of us would have the confidence to try. I'm sure jest is likely to come down here.
Yeah, that makes sense. But in this game, aside from Borraccio, it really just started to snowball against Harshan. He did have the nice double-double equating, but David definitely the better end of the tile bag. 4 bingos, 2 blanks pulled for the Aussie. He'll even things up 2-2 here.
I'm just curious to know, just from a competitive psychology standpoint, it feels like Harshan will figure out that he missed Borraccio on that early turn in the game, which of course Choir was his play there for 40, which is a great play, except that he had the 100-point bingo. And, we saw David Eldar play a phony 8-letter word of Fariner, and clearly he was able to shrug that off and play some great Scrabble. If Harshan gets word that he missed that enormous 100-point Borraccio, will he be able to do the same and continue to play at such a high level as he has been? These are the human questions that come up when you're playing Scrabble at this level.
Yeah. And also builds up the question, are any of Harshan's friends going to let him know? Do they know him well enough to let him know he's missed a bingo? Will he look it up himself? Will any of Harshan's enemies come running down the hallway and scream, "You missed Borraccio, you had the game"? There's a lot to be determined here, but we do hope everybody has a good sportsmanship here Do wonder if or when Harshan will see that missed opportunity, though.
Well, I believe I don't think he will find out about the missed opportunity until he comes out of the playing arena. So I think that is a plus for him. Except he figured that he probably missed somewhere along the line, and he quickly checks his stats. But I don't see him doing that. So I think on that front, he's safe from that guilt of having thrown the game by himself. And with that guilt not in the equation, it should be a pretty great game going forward.
It is one of those racks as well that I don't even think it would check to see if I had a bingo with choir BA, right? That's not a great set of bingo tiles. I might not even think to look on my phone after the game and say, well, what did I miss there? It feels clear that choir is a great play. It might not cross my mind that there was something hidden on the board so much better.
The best end game for David now is hilarious. I wouldn't usually, go through and talk about perfect end games and all that, but after JEST, he's just supposed to put down ING behind it for 27 points.
Jesting, making Ray, Ern, and Meg.
That's it. Yeah, holding AAA.
That is a unique sequence for sure. Playing that type of extension play, leaving 3 A's is the best you can do in an end game. That's not very common.
No, not at all. That's a fun one. End games perpetually challenging, perpetually baffling, and I know some of the greats practice end games. Noah Walton has done this over and over. He'll just open Quackle, and I think it's Command T or Shift T or something to make it just make the highest equity move, and just do that until there's about 2 in the bag. Pretend the score is very close, independent of what it actually is, and then just try to make a play, try to figure out what is the way for me to maximize this sequence for myself, score independent. You can practice those in any game on any board. Just generate a random board, get down to the end, and figure out a way to maximize your points while minimizing your opponents.
Yeah, that type of practice is definitely, the thinking that goes into an end game in Scrabble is a bit different than the way you generate moves in the early and middle game. Just knowing what your opponent has on their rack, or as anybody that watched me on stream, thinking you know what they have and not always being correct, that is a very different way of generating moves, and it requires a little extra practice. So it does help to either play a lot of end games on a computer program like Quackle, or just play a lot of Scrabble and pay particular attention to the end game.
We'll cut to overhead mic here, see if we catch anything. Not much to say on this game, though.
Or not, 38 for me.
Oh, yeah, 38, yeah.
1-1-0.
Yeah, sorry, I've gone completely bonkers, haven't I? So 38 and 72 is, that's 1-1-1, right?
There's no 1-1-0.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, fine. So what's the difference? That's minus 11. No? Okay, keep going. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, what do you have? Do you have 1-1-0?
Yeah, I do have 1-1-0 now. Yeah.
Plus 26 is 136.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Plus 89 is 225, probably.
Yeah, we are both tired, aren't we? So that's 325, correct?
225.
225. That's what I meant. 225.
258.
Yeah, I agree with that.
294.
I agree. Yeah.
Plus 83 is 377.
Yeah, I agree.
Plus 78 is 4. Oh shit! Hang on, I think here's where I went wrong.
377 plus 78. That's
7
455.
plus 7 is 40.
That's 455, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Whoopsie.
Okay. And then, so we both got the scores
45
wrong.
plus 39 is 494.
Yeah, 494.
Plus
yeah.
16 is 510.
Yeah. Yeah, 510. So you agree with 510.
409.
Yeah, Elton?
Thanks. Good luck.
This is getting
Russell
interesting.
didn't score enough to win, unfortunately.
No, I think I was probably aware of that in the back of my head.
Would you have challenged Ariel? Would you have noticed?
How are we spelling that? Yeah.
Would you have spotted it?
I think I might have spotted that, yeah. I think I might have spotted your
You'd have checked all the 2s and
your
3s.
140.23.
Yeah, I mean, I
To
didn't
be
think
fair, it wouldn't even win.
I didn't want to try it because it wouldn't win, basically.
Yeah, it's
There's
worth
no
trying
point.
if it
There's no
doesn't-
point.
No, well, yeah, you lose more than you get. Positive take a D, I can't remember. Negative test.
It takes R for sure. I don't think it takes a D.
I don't think so. Either,
Yeah, it's just R.
but I can't remember.
I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, that sounds right, but I'm not sure. Plus O? I'll be positive. Yeah, that's right.
No good, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
submit.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
already.
You done it already?
Yeah.
Okay. That was quick.
Well, it's tough. I've been Pavloved.
You've been trained.
Yeah, into
You're doing a
doing
good
that.
job.
Okay, so the players to stretch their legs a little bit after this one. David tossing his patented hoodie and its wonderful stitching to the other side of the table, moving his bag. We know Harshan going to go stretch his legs a little bit after that game as well. As you can hear the post-game banter, would you have challenged REL? What are the hooks to positive? And Harshan rattling them off right away. We're going to cut to commentary cam until we get word that the players are ready to go again. I'll be joined in the booth by Will and Wellington.